Congratulations on your new role, but let me ask you, obviously the first big task is to deal with the coronavirus, and this decision was made for MWC to cancel in Barcelona this year. How do you anticipate coronavirus will affect the economy of Spain?
Well, I think what we have to do at the moment is keep calm and follow the instructions that are coming from the World Health Organization and the European Union. And we think that if we do that, we will have a good chance of managing coronavirus. But if we exacerbate and if we get too worried and if we get too hysterical, it's going to have an impact. And it's not necessarily what health authorities are telling us. What health authorities have been telling us is that Spain is a perfectly safe place from a coronavirus point of view. So keep calm, make sure that we don't exacerbate the risks, and manage the situation with solidarity to China, where the epicenter of coronavirus is.
Now, like many countries in Europe, Spain has a new government, but again, it's a little bit fragile. There is no majority, if you like. How does a European government like yourselves exert more influence on the European stage when already, even domestically, it's a little bit fragile?
Well, first, we are a government that is looking at the next 4 years, at an entire legislature, and it is a government that has a thin majority, like so many governments around the world. The question today with governments is finding the necessary balance to govern, to take the decisions that are looking at the future. And from that point of view, we feel confident that this government can do that. We have started by addressing the issues at home, growth, addressing inequalities, imbalances that we have inherited from the way the financial crisis of 2008 was managed, facing an ecological transition and making sure we leave no citizens behind. We feel that if we do that, we will have a solid majority of Spaniards behind us, and we will have a stronger voice in Europe.
Minister, good morning. It's Guy in London. One government that does have a big majority is Boris Johnson's in London. And I'm curious as to whether or not, considering your trade experience, you see Boris Johnson's objective of getting a trade deal done with the EU by the end of this year as being feasible. The indications are that the UK is prepared to accept some trade friction, and it does want some divergence. What are your expectations?
Well, my expectations are that we find an agreement that is good for the UK and is good for Europe. We in Spain, as part of the European Union, want an ambitious deal. Why? Because our trade and people relation and our defense and security relations are extremely important for us for the future. Of course, the next relationship will not be as strong as the current one because the UK will not be a member of the European Union. What matters to us, therefore, is ambition and level playing field, no unfair competition between the UK and the European Union in the future.
By the end of this year?
Well, we are open in the European Union. We've said that we value a lot the quality of the deal. But if the UK wants to have it by the end of the year, we'll have to have a good pace of work from now on. We are ready to do that. Essentially, it's in the hands of the UK.
Forecasts for growth are coming down as we go out the years in Spain. You're looking at sort of 1.5%, just above it for 2021, for example. I'm curious as to how concerned you are about Brussels and Washington getting along and any potential for additional tariffs against the EU.
Well, for us in Spain and in the European Union, the relationship with the US is very important. It's a relationship that works well. It works well for our businesses. It works well for our people, for our scientists, for our civil society. We want to keep it like this. Of course, we can improve it. Let's do that through a negotiation. Of course, there are irritants. Let's deal with them through a negotiation. Strengthen our relationship because that's what's mutually beneficial. 60% of investments in the US are coming from Europe. A similar amount of investments in Europe are coming from the US. We've got a responsibility to manage our relations in a responsible manner, that is through dialogue and cooperation rather than unilateralism.
There are a lot of negotiations about to start and about to take place. How does Spain ensure that it has a strong voice in those negotiations?
Well, we will be strong if the European Union is strong. And the European Union will be strong if each one of its member states invests in making the European Union stronger. We certainly in Spain are ready to do that, are ready to invest, to work together with our European partners to strengthen the European Union, to give it a more geopolitical role at a time when the world seems to be wanting Europe to play a much more decisive role.
Just in terms of that unity that you see within Europe, how easy is that going to be to achieve when it comes to dealing with the United States? Like, what effect is the relationship currently having on Spain? We have seen some tariffs being imposed. We also see a lot of talk about digital taxes being imposed as well. Do you see Europe sticking together on these key areas as it negotiates with the United States?
Well, in the area of international trade, it's pretty clear. The European Union negotiates on behalf of all European Union member states. And it does that on the basis of a mandate. We've given the European Commission a mandate to do that. And they engage in a discussion with the United States. For as long as we keep it like this, we will be able, if we are able to speak with one voice, we will be able to defend our interests in a stronger manner than if we play it along. That's what's happened up until now. And I think we, at least in Spain, we will continue to invest in ensuring the European voice is one mouth, one message, strong one.
Okay, but we are seeing, for instance, France going out on its own. Do you see that as problematic in terms of the unity that you're talking about? Do you? There are areas. I agree with trade. Theoretically, there is only one voice which is coming out of Europe. But on the other hand, there are other areas which are complicating matters, in which Europe is not unified.
Well, in the area, I mean, you mentioned just now the area of taxing digital value added, which is an important issue in Europe, not just in France. It's also important to Spain. It's also important to Germany or to Italy. Why? Because we see in today's economy when the digital space is gaining ground, we cannot just simply continue to tax the analog part of our economy without taxing the digital part of our economy. And we are united in that. And we are united with the US on that. The question is, how do we do that? We've agreed, both of us, that we prefer to do this through the OECD, having one way of taxing this digital space. But obviously, we've also made it clear that if negotiations in the OECD don't progress, we will do this individually as countries. But in Europe, as I must say, as in the US, citizens want fair taxation. And that means doing also the digital part of our economies.